job interview, which can help you complete the GPS and prepare for your business career.
Hello, everybody. As you may know, next week we're going to have our elevator pitch workshop with Altria. An elevator pitch is how to market yourself in basically a ride in an elevator, like 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And it would be in our regular time from 12:15 to 1:30 p.m. Through Zoom. We're also fundraising with the food bank. The food bank asked us, Alpha, to help and donate money and find a way to help those families in need. Because of COVID situations, many families have lost their jobs and they're looking for ways to give them food or anything like that. You can scan to donate, or you can also click the link below that I am about to provide in the chat. Thank you.
Hello again. As a part of Internship Week, we will be co-hosting with both IMA Edinburgh and Brownsville, and we will be hosting PwC. This is going to be an info session, and they are going to be giving us a bit more insight about their company and any internship and job opportunities they have available. If you are interested in attending this event, it is going to be held this Friday from 12:15 to 1:30 p.m. and you have to RSVP and register through Handshake, and we will be providing the link to register or RSVP in the chat box. So keep an eye out for that.
Hello guys, I hope y'all are doing good. I just wanted to do a quick announcement, and before I do, if I start coughing, I'm so sorry. I feel under the weather right now. The Virtual Symposium is coming up in October from the 1st to the 3rd, and this event is a good opportunity to network, to expand your network, to network with Alpha chapters, to meet recruiters for Fortune 500 companies, and today's general meeting is an asset to prepare you for this event. And there will be more general meetings that would help you to prepare for this event. So if you're interested, the link for the registration form is on the chat. And if you want to know how to sign up for free, just let us know on alpha.utrgv@gmail.com. Again, alpha.utrgv@gmail.com.
Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat box. Now, without further ado, please help me welcome our speakers for today, Martha Cordoba and Eva Hinsby.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having us. I think probably most of you actually don't know me. I had met one of your exec board members at the Alpha conference, virtual conference, I guess. I guess it was last month. And I think one of our EY people out of Texas wasn't able to join. So Ava and I are actually out of Atlanta. But I mean, she'll be able to tell you really whether it's Texas or Georgia or wherever it is, like the firm, you could kind of get the same experience. But we really wanted to talk you guys through resume building. So we have hopefully a fun kind of like icebreaker activity. We do have a PowerPoint presentation. It's a little dry, I will caveat with that. So we'll try to breeze on by that one. And then we actually wanted to actually get you guys in front of some resumes. Some maybe not so good ones. We put together a couple not so good ones that we had seen around and combined them into one that hopefully we could edit together and just capture like, hey, like that's just really bad, don't do that. And then maybe look at a really good one. And then if we have some time, I'm more than happy to, I also have my own that I used back when I was in college. Ava also has hers, so more than happy to kind of show you guys the one that I actually used when I was interviewing with EY and whatnot. So that's going to kind of be the agenda from the resume building perspective. I guess introductions, because I forgot. Yes, my name is Martha Cordoba. Like I said, I'm based out of Atlanta. I'm actually originally from Florida though, and Colombian and Venezuelan. I have been with the firm for 4 years now, and I also interned. I used to be part of the what used to be called our risk advisory practice, really more under internal audit and IT audit. And then I now have recently changed roles. I am more in a project manager position, focusing on cybersecurity type projects. So that is what I do. And then I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Martha. Yes, hi, my name is Eva Himsby. I am from Peru originally. I moved here back in 2011. It feels like it was so long ago. I went to Kennesaw State. I am an accounting major. I started with the firm back in January of this year. So I graduated in December 2019. So I'm fairly new to the firm, but I did intern with them. I am in the risk advisory practice, which is where Martha kind of had her start. So what I do right now is more internal audit and also with IT audit. And yeah, well, I'll just kick it off back to Martha so that we can get started with the icebreaker.
Yeah, and I forgot while I shared my screen, we're both previous Alpha student chapter leaders as well. So we love Alpha, very near and dear to our hearts. I was a member, then I was secretary. I think I was looking at my resume. I couldn't even remember what role I had. And if I can remember, were you president at Kennesaw?
Yes, I was the president for the Kennesaw chapter.
Yeah. So we love Alpha. That's why when we were asked, we're like, of course, we'll be there. But first and foremost, I wanted to really just kind of get everybody talking. I don't know if anyone has ever used this tool, but it kind of allows for some interaction. But wanted to kind of get everybody's thoughts, like when you're kind of thinking about writing your resume, what are some thoughts that come to mind? Are you overwhelmed? Are you stressed? Like, what do you feel? What are some words that come to mind? So this is a word cloud, and if you go on menti.com, either in your laptop or your phone, and type in that code, these questions should pop up, so you will be able to answer. So if everybody can just go on their phones or their laptop and start just popping in what comes to mind when you start thinking about your resume and building your resume. And I'll do it with you guys too. Stressful. I definitely, with you there, I would remember being very stressed out about my resume. Very time consuming. Insecure. Hopefully we could work a little bit on how to make you more comfortable. I think anything insecurity is just trial and repetition. Strategic. Who said strategic? What does that mean? I also want everybody kind of talking. I don't want to be the only one talking.
I said strategic because I believe it's very important that you list all of your educational and your professional accomplishments so you can showcase who you are to potential employers.
No, that's so true. I hadn't thought of it that way. Marketing our skills, it's so important. I mean, that's really essentially what it is. Like it's overwhelming. Like, how do you market everything in one, like everything you are in one piece of paper? Let's see what else is here. Confusing. It is so confusing, especially I think in college, when we don't really have time to build experiences to add into a resume. I think that was my biggest frustration, was like, what do I even have to add on there? I like all of these. I think these are all great, but I think it kind of, Eva, I don't know about you, but it's like, I feel like I can relate to all of this even today.
Yes, definitely. Especially the don't know where to start. I remember, as far as my experience, when I first started working on resumes, I would just go on Google and type in resume sample. There are those sites that charge you for a sample, but then you also like go get the free ones. I don't know if any of you guys want to share, like, how did you start with the very first resume that you ever wrote? Like, was it a sample you got off Google or what?
Don't everybody jump at once. We don't want to call people out.
I know. Everybody gonna get voluntold.
I think I started my first resume my senior year in high school.
Uh-huh.
And so I was mainly focusing just on educational aspects of that. And it was really long at first. So I was trying to list everything.
I also started my resume, and I think my senior year in high school, and now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I submit that? But yeah.
Well, I'm glad you guys were starting in high school, though. I don't think I had a resume probably until junior year. So you started pretty early. And that's good. Definitely the earlier you start, the more comfortable you'll get and the less likely you are to experience all of this. I was actually, when we were prepping for this, we have like, even at EY, we have internal resumes. Like it never ends. So if you're ever trying to get into a new project, because everything at EY is very project based, you have to have your experience and what you've been doing at EY. So I have to continuously update what we call our EY bios on a semi-annual basis. So it never ends. So the more comfortable you are with the technique, with the strategic aspects of it, with how to sell yourself, the better, because unfortunately, it's going to follow you forever. But we can go into the next question. If my computer decides to be my friend today. Maybe not. Some of our pre-populated answers were on there. But what are some resume do's that you guys can think of as far as like what you should be doing when putting your resume together? So we already had review formatting is super important. Just like you eat with your eyes. Your resume, the moment I get somebody sending me a resume, I don't even go into content. I look at how it looks like visually, and I feel like I can make a decision as to whether I want to invest in it further. Review grammar, so important, so important. The resume that I submitted to EY definitely had a grammar error that I picked on afterwards. And I died inside a little bit. Spell check again, include technical skills, anything technical, especially if you're like very much into like a very technical field, included. That is so important. Volunteer experience matters a lot. If you're not like anybody in college, we don't have a plethora of career experience. So your volunteering, your extracurriculars are going to be such an important part of it. Let's see.
I like that short reasoning for use. Do you mean the objective? Like just include that? Like who wrote that?
Me. I wrote that. Yeah, like my high school teacher always told me like, oh, right, why are you doing this like resume? Like, oh, I look forward to looking for an internship. This is like something.
Like an objective, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think something really important too about an objective, almost for yourself, is it can help you gear exactly what you want to add in that resume. So if you're looking for an accounting internship or like an audit internship and you put that in your objective, you want those skills that you're adding to support that overall objective. So whether it's like analytical thinker or you were in one way or another being able to like analyze a variety of different things, because as an auditor, all you're really doing is analyzing and comparing. And always making sure that that eventually kind of rolls up into whatever job description that you saw online. A job description is so critical when you're building your resume. You know how like when you're looking at a job description, it says like, here are the requirements, here's what they're looking for. You want bullet points in your resume to tie to those requirements that your employer, whatever employer that you're looking at, has posted online, or however it means you're researching that. But yeah, these are all awesome.
Yeah, and I wanted to give some feedback as far as the references. Right now, we're moving away from having references on the resume because there's such little space. You don't want to give real estate to give people or to the names of, or to for contact information. So what you can do is just at the end, just put a line that says references available upon request, and that will just save you some space that you can use for other valuable information that you want to highlight.
Yep, I think that's an awesome thing to note, and always having it ready and available when people ask for it. But even my understanding is like somebody like EY or Big Four recruiting, they actually never asked me for any references. I don't know about you.
No, I was surprised. Yeah, no, they didn't. I guess they just get to know you, or we just get to know you during the recruitment process, that we feel like we are the reference, so we can, you know, form an opinion of you, and we don't need to, you know, get any references from other people.
Yeah, but other companies might as well. I have seen even some of, I had an intern that tried to pursue another internship more at a very specific accounting department, and they did ask for reference, and I got a chance to speak on her behalf. So definitely have it available. I would step away from taking too much space in your resume for that. I will move on to some resume don'ts. What do you guys think we should not be doing? Yeah, don't make it too lengthy. Odds are, I'm gonna go ahead and assume that everybody on this call is doesn't have a plethora of work experience, and you should be able to put that into one page. Even myself included, I was updating my resume for it to apply to like a program that I'm interested in applying to, and even I couldn't come up with more like career details more than one page, and I've been working at EY for 4 years, so there should be no reason why a student would ever go above one page. Wrong tenses is my biggest pet peeve in resume. And I see it all the time, and we cover it in the slides. But unless you have a piece in your resume regarding a job that you have currently, you want everything to be past tense.
I see some of you mentioned lying. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going there. You could go.
Yeah, lying and exaggerating skills. That's definitely something very important. You want to be confident in what you know, but also be humble enough to accept what you don't know, because people are going to find out either during the interview process or worse during the job while you're on the job. So definitely be realistic with what your skills are, and don't feel like you need to inflate something just to get the job or just to get somewhere. If you do recognize that there's some shortcomings in your skill set, then work on those skills, but not just put them on the resume just for the sake of it.
That's so true. Who said not relevant skills to the job? I love that.
Me again.
No, yeah. I think going back to like looking at whatever job posting, you always have to prioritize and pick and choose what's relevant to your reader. So when you're putting a resume together, don't think of like, I'm putting everything that Martha is into a piece of paper. If Lucero is my hiring manager, what is she going to want to look at? What does she care about? Do things make sense to her? The resume is not for you. The resume is for the recruiter, it's for the job. So always make sure that you're only adding relevant information for them. You don't want somebody to just be there and go like, why should I care about this? That's not good. Awesome. Well, hopefully this already kind of got you thinking what you should be doing, what you should not, and overall just make you feel comfortable with the fact that we've all been here before, and I'm still there all the time today. So I am going to stop sharing this screen and share my PowerPoint. But before we get there, any kind of like questions you guys have before we get started? Like, you really want to make sure you get out of this session today. I want to make sure this time is for you guys. I'm not building a resume anytime soon. Yes, no, maybe.
Well, how many years back should you go? Like, what is the maximum? Like, oh, you cannot talk about 2018.
I think that's a great question. I would say, are there any freshmen on the call? Can take that as one freshman. So maybe, Patricia, like maybe you would have maybe some experience from high school. But I would say everybody else, I would recommend for you guys to not have anything high school related on your resume. So I think, at least for me in college, I don't know about you, but it's just like, that was always kind of like, once I hit my sophomore year, then I kept it at college experience. And now that I'm in my career, I don't have anything college related in my resume. I have only the last 4 years.
Well, actually, I'm a freshman, but I did graduate high school in 2016.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's because I started in a technical school and then I moved to the university.
Yeah.
So
That
yeah,
makes
that's
sense.
why I'm a freshman. But
And that's fine. Then I think most of you, like, I would just make sure you focus on everything you've been doing in college.
Yeah, and also like if you've had just the one job for the past 5 years that you started in high school and you still have it, then obviously, yeah, just include on your resume. If you've only had like 1 or 2 jobs, you want to put that work experience in there, because even if it's not absolutely relevant, we still want to know that you had those soft skills. So for example, you were customer service, so I was able to manage these many tasks all at the same time. Then I was given these responsibilities, etc. Because even if you don't feel like you just have to put in internships, or if you don't have those, like, don't feel bad that you don't have those. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can get experience without having experience, because Martha and I were talking that nowadays to get a job you kind of have to have like 20-something years of experience, it seems. But yeah, just if all you have is the one job, it doesn't matter if it's like way too old. So that would be my take on it.
Cool. And just feel free to stop us as we cover these. Again, we want to keep this really interactive, and this is probably the least fun section, but wanted to make sure we covered kind of some details. But I'll let you kick it off with what makes a good resume. And you guys can see my screen, right?
No, not yet.
No. Damn it. What about now? If I manage.
I think it's loading. It's loading, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Can anyone see it? Yes, thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing about a resume is that we look at it as something that opens the doors to our career jobs, because that is the first thing that recruiters are going to look at. And a lot of the times it's not even a person physically looking at it, it's just like a software. So you definitely want to make sure that you know the tips and tricks to make your resume more visually appealing so you can get your foot in the door that way. We also think that it should, in general, it should be a quickly and efficient way. And you just need to summarize your skills, your experiences, just everything that makes you you, and all of your wonderful things that you want to highlight and that you think would make you an ideal candidate. Those need to be in there, and they need to be highlighted appropriately. And lastly, like what Martha and I were talking about, is that resumes will always need to be updated. Even if you're in a job that you've been at 5 years, you always need to be constantly changing it. So don't feel like just because you have a resume that's it. Just definitely have a look over it and have several people continue to look at it, so that you can continue to evolve or make it evolve as you evolve also in your career. You can go to the next one. It's loading. Okay, so the next one about formatting. Now, formatting is really important when it comes to resumes because, like I said, if it's not formatted the right way, a lot of the times the resume softwares will not even read it. So we definitely want to make sure that our resume is easy to read, that the specific items stand out, such as, for example, your education, your leadership experience, and that you're able to differentiate the zones or the specific sections from your resume. So some formatting tools that you can use, you can put things in bold to emphasize some things. I definitely don't overuse the bold function, but stuff like, I don't know if you want to emphasize the school that you went to or the different positions that you held, the companies. We're going to look at some examples where they've used bold, the bold formatting in order to highlight things. Then small caps are easier to read than all caps, so use all caps sparingly. Same as italics and underline, but for different reasons. Like italics and underlines are difficult to read for some software or resume software, so that's why we would recommend to not use them as much. Definitely you want to use bullets and use like the small standard bullets. Don't use the, no fancy little drawing bullets because those can make it hard to read as well. The font changes, no more than 2 per resume, and keep it consistent. Like for example, if you're using one font for the different companies, then make sure you use the same font for all the companies. And then if you're using another for the body of each bullet point, then make sure that it's consistent. You can use vertical lines in order to denote a separation. That way you don't have to use too much space. Because, remember with the resume, we have limited real estate. And then the horizontal lines, you can help those to better separate different sections in your resume to make it more visually appealing. You can go to the next one. Okay, and so as far as what you want to include in the, can you go back, Martha, in the education section? Yeah, so in the education section, you want to include all the schools where you either received a degree. So for example, in your case, like obviously you're working towards your degree now, but if you have an associate's degree from maybe a technical school, you want to put that one as well. If you did maybe just one semester abroad at a different school, you want to put that also. Even if you didn't receive a degree from that abroad, from that institution abroad, you still want to include it. Then high school, do not include it unless you're like a first year student. So, but otherwise just leave that behind. You need the space, don't waste it on that. Also list the degree that you're working towards and the expected graduation date. Something that I remember a professor of mine told us, that make sure you know what degree your school is offering. So for example, me for the longest time, I thought Kennesaw gave us a Bachelor of Arts in Accounting. No, that's a lie. It's a BBA. It's a Bachelor of Business Administration in Accounting. So little distinctions like that, make sure that you research and put in the correct information, because otherwise it will be considered a lie. And that stuff is pretty important. I did not know back then, so I'm glad that I had that class and I was able to change it. List your GPA. Some people kind of go back and forth about this. I would say if it's something below a 3.4, maybe don't list it. Unless there are some companies that ask you to list it, then do so. But I think if it's not even a requirement, then and your GPA is kind of low, then don't list it at all. I mean, obviously, even if companies don't ask for it, you have a 4.0, then yeah, I'll put that in there. But if not, then I wouldn't even bother with that. The certification,
Just to add to the GPA, agreed that if no one's asking for it, I'm a firm believer of like less is more. But also I remember highlighting my major GPA over, I remember I was a finance major. I loved my finance classes, didn't always love all of my classes, so I ended up having a higher finance GPA than an overall GPA. And I found that to be perfectly fine. Asked a couple people, at least the feedback I'd gotten 5 years ago was that that was acceptable. So if you have a higher accounting GPA, go ahead and put that, or vice versa. Overall, hey, here together with accounting and every other class I've taken, this is what I have. I don't think anybody is kind of that nitpicky.
Yeah, and I totally agree with Martha. Companies now are not very, well, most of them are not very nitpicky about GPA. I know that EY, when I was working some career fairs, I asked the recruiters, they told us they don't really look at GPA. Anything below a certain number, you want to ask the reasoning. And so be prepared to have those conversations too, just, on a side note, while you're interviewing, like if you have a really low GPA, say why, I was working 2 jobs, I was going through some stuff personally. But yeah, definitely a good idea to highlight the major GPA if that one is higher. You want to sell yourself, so just remember all that. Then if you ever made, the dean's list, the president's list, put that in the honor section, like give it its own separate section, not just education. Then SAT and SAT scores, I would say don't even bother with those unless the company's asking for it, but those are not necessary at all. And the relevant coursework section, that was a section that I put in before I had any relevant experience, just to kind of give a little bit more oomph to my resume, so to speak. So what I showcased there, me just personally, was some classes that I had taken as part of my minor, because I was an accounting major, but I was doing a minor in applied statistics. So just some classes that I thought were relevant and that recruiters might look at and be like, oh, wow, like that's pretty interesting. Tell me more about that. So I added that one, but then once I had enough experience, then I just took that out because it kind of just takes space. And the way an advisor told me, it's like anybody recruiting you knows that if you're an accounting student, they know that you're taking managerial and financial accounting, like they know that. So save the relevant coursework to those courses that recruiters would perhaps not know that you are taking because they're not a part of your regular curricula. So like I said, maybe some coding classes or some more technical skill set classes, or maybe classes that are not with your major, but that you are taking just to kind of broaden your knowledge as far as the skills that you want for the job that you want. So if you're taking some, computer science classes, even though you're a finance major, so you do want to include those. But otherwise, I would say just like skip it. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Martha, or?
Nope, I think you covered it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and we can go to the next one. Okay, now for the work section, there are many things that you can call it. You can say work experience, relevant experience. I don't know if this will apply to you, but once you get out into the workforce, you'd want to avoid employment that's a little bit too short. That kind of shows that you were job hopping, because recruiters will look at that and say, okay, well, how do we know you're going to stay at this company? But for you guys, I don't think that will apply. Obviously, if you're college students, a lot of the jobs that you've sometimes had are over the summer. So disregard that. If you've had a summer job that you think will be relevant, or an internship, like definitely do include that. Put them in order. This is where some people might disagree. Like some people say put it in chronological order, but if your most relevant work experience for the job that you're applying is maybe the second one, if you're looking at it chronologically, then what some people have told me is to put that one first, just because it's the most relevant and that people will look at first. I don't know if Martha, you disagree, then maybe, if you do, then, you guys can use your own judgment.
I would definitely probably put the most relevant, just from experience and preference. I want the most important information first, like draw the eye to the very top. I would even, like when I was helping put together kind of like the resumes that we're going to look at it in a little bit, I actually had education first and then work experience. I would start with work experience off the bat. Like, not that anybody doesn't care about your education, but why we're here is I want to know what you've done. So yeah, I would say relevant.
Yeah, and like Martha said, yeah, that's what we're all here for, finding a job. So definitely it all depends. And when you talk, the more people you talk to about your resume, the more you'll hear different takes. And that's why it's so important to have different people look at your resume so you can get different feedback. And as far as the content, obviously, you want to include the company, what your job title was, and then give a brief overview of what you're working on. Obviously, starting with action verbs, which Martha's going to touch on. And yeah, just make sure that that experience showcases the impact that you had on the job and all of the stuff that you did that will be useful for the position that you're applying to. And like Martha said, make sure that that section of when you click on a position that you want to apply to and you're looking at what the job qualifications are, use that. That will be your most valuable tool or resource when you are crafting your resume, because then you can see, okay, they're looking for someone that is able to analyze spreadsheets. Okay, so then when you work on your work experience, on the work experience part of your resume, that you can say, I analyze spreadsheets, so make sure that you tailor it so that recruiters will look at it and see, okay, this is the person that we need. And now we're going to kick it out, we're going to pass it to Martha. She's going to continue.
Oh wait, I had a quick
sorry, yeah.
Since this is relevant with the work experience, how should someone handle employment gaps?
I would say, well, if you put them on your work section, it would show that you have a gap. I've seen some people put in a sentence, like just a tiny sentence. This gap was due to study abroad. This gap was due to focusing on school. I don't think like right now for the level that you are, you're all college students, like gaps are expected because people quit their jobs all the time just to focus on school. That is something that might come up maybe during the interview process and that you can expand on and tell them like, yeah, I stopped working because of X, Y, and Z. I don't know, Martha, if you have any take on that.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think that given kind of the place that all of you guys are, that's that critical, and something that would come up more kind of later on in your career. Those are the conversations I hear people my age talk about, of like, I want to take time off, and like, how do I explain that, or like jumping around a lot of jobs, but you'll cross that bridge when you get there. Next section is what to include, and this is digging in a little bit deeper into the relevant work experience. So like we mentioned a second ago, this is definitely the most important part of your resume. This is where you want to focus the most of your attention, where you want to almost do like the most introspection and look back at everything you've done throughout like your college career. So this is the nitty grittiness of it. So I think the first bullet there is kind of really does it justice. Is just brainstorm about your jobs. Given that you guys are college student, I really think of the relevant work experience to be more than just jobs. Think about your leadership roles, your community service involvement. When I look at a student's resume, I consider all of that relevant work experience. It doesn't have to be a job or an internship. It is, what are you doing to gain soft skills, to gain technical skills, to learn outside of what you're doing in the classroom. So like we say that, like, what did you accomplish? What skills did you gain? Like almost like starting to write that down, like whether you like typing it down or like writing it on a piece of paper, just really kind of brainstorming on everything that you've done. I think going back to the few of you that mentioned that you've had resumes since high school, the more you can do to like refresh that resume every 6 months, the better, because you don't want to be sitting your senior year 2-3 weeks before applying to your job thinking about what's all you've done in the last 3 to 4 years. You want to be able to like have a running tally of everything that you've worked on, so you don't lose anything that could potentially be really valuable. So make that brainstorming session like a continuous thing that you do to build a really strong resume. So like just a little sub bullet there is like, when kind of drafting that content, what did you do? And we're going to go this into the resumes, like when you were doing that job, like, and we also have an action verb slides next. It's like, what was the action that you were accomplishing? Like, what is the result? What is the value that came out of what you did? You really want that format to be the continuous format that you have in your resume. Like we mentioned earlier as well, prioritizing your accomplishments. Like we have it here, like maybe you had an internship or you have a job that maybe some of the work that you do, like anybody, maybe isn't that like standout kind of a thing what you did 90% of the time. I remember my first job, I was just like helping like at a law firm for like the summer, and literally all I did for the most part was like copying, like just in front of a copy machine. But every once in a while they give me a little bit more responsibility, and it's like that little bit of more responsibility that you are giving, highlight that. Starting with action verbs are huge. Again, my biggest pet peeve is the action verbs. You just, again, you want to highlight what you did. Why do I care about what you did? And having action verbs is the easiest, most effective way to do that. Then looking at the job description, like we mentioned earlier, so making it's totally okay to have multiple resumes. It's a lot of work. I know it's overwhelming, but have your resume be more tailored to that specific job. So if you're looking, like maybe you want to be open-minded, maybe you want to apply for a marketing job, but you're an accounting major, so you're also applying for an accounting position, like internship. So trying to gear them a little bit more, you know, this is your marketing one because you're highlighting this more like soft skills rather than like your technical accounting skills. So matching that job description is critical. And I think it's really critical to the fact that a lot of companies use bots now for going through resumes. We're not recruiters, so I don't have as much insight as exactly as how those bots work these days. And I don't think I had to deal with them, but it's the reality of the way they kind of sort through resumes nowadays. And my understanding is that if your resume is not meeting that criteria that they have in their job posting, they're not even going to look at it. And which I guess goes into a second, not resume related kind of a thing, but if you really care and want to have a job, if you could do anything to have a face-to-face interaction and meet somebody. I rarely to never have heard of somebody that got a job just by applying online. You have to know somebody. Somebody needs to be able to push that resume through. So don't just rely on applying with a resume online. It's going to be really challenging. Include skills that are specific to your industry. I think this goes with the one above. Just be very specific to that job description. And quantifying is very important where you can. So if you managed people, like if you're an alpha and you're managing, like you're the president of the student chapter with X amount of exec board people under you, number those people. Or if you guys, I'm part of this organization that has X amount of people, or like maybe you're just a member, but you're helping with an event. I helped put together an event that 50 people joined. Anything you can do to quantify and make somebody kind of almost paint a picture in their mind is so, so important, and just highlights and stands out a little bit more than I hosted an event. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, what did you do? So that's so, so important. Any questions on this slide? We'll go to the next. So like I mentioned, action verbs are huge in that kind of relevant work experience section. These are just a few of them. I remember Googling action verbs like a crazy person in college when I was updating my resumes. A lot of my job now is very similar to like writing a resume. I do a lot of executive reporting where I have to speak to what we did as a project. And I'm pulling like action, like I'm constantly having an action verb list of like, what did we accomplish? Why did we do this? Why does it matter? Like, just if you can just kind of like tell yourself that that's all you have to focus on. Like, what did you do? What was the business value associated to that? That is so important. So in like anything communication, and usually they're breaking out into sections like you see here. So like whether you did clerical skills, communication skills, creative skills. I liked pulling, if I could try to pull something that I did from each one of those sections, I found that I could always kind of fill up my resume. But action verbs are huge. Get used to kind of writing your resume in that way. What to avoid, just a few items. Pronouns, don't ever use I. Just don't. Any helping verbs, again, this is just to make it more actionable. What did you do? Just as the one below that, the difference between being passive and being active when you're speaking. So try to always have speaking in an active form. So again, having that active verb, speaking to what you did, what you accomplished, and staying away from anything that is too subjective. Again, kind of always focusing on like, who's your audience, who is reading this, and if they picked up this piece of paper, can they understand everything that's here? Can they understand who Kylie is? Or are they really just like, it doesn't make sense to them? And then the last section, your leadership section, which again, given where you guys are at, really goes very, very close hand in hand with your work experience. This section is probably going to be, it's really the one I care about the most when somebody sends resumes over to us. I want to find out what you guys are doing on campus. Like if somebody doesn't have a job and you're not doing any sort of leadership experience at all, maybe I'm a terrible person, but I don't really care that you have a 4.0 GPA. And maybe you should gear yourself to a more technical type of role. If you're interested in a job like EY or anything Big Four, we want to know more about your leadership skills, your soft skills, the importance of like networking and working with a variety of people. We're constantly working with so many clients. To me, if somebody gives me a resume that's just very like school oriented, I think of them as more of like a very technical individual that's very just going to be great at working on their own, and maybe this might just not be the right career field for them. So nothing wrong with that, but just know that, again, depending on the job that you're applying to, somewhere like EY is going to care a lot about your leadership experience and what you're doing to develop your soft skills. So focus on that big time. Acronyms are huge. Don't put acronyms. When I was looking at my resume, I was like, wow, girl, you added some acronyms. I have no clue what they are. No one would have ever known what they were. So always stay away from acronyms or like spell them out. And then volunteer experience is great. Anything you're doing in the community, I think it's so important. And yeah. Any questions on the leadership section? You guys are so quiet.
I do have a question on the last slide when you said to avoid using I. And when we're listing our work experience, how would we list it? Like, how would we list the things that we would do?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think you're almost just dropping the I. So like, if I'm saying, like right now, I manage, in my like project management role, I manage 10 different work streams, managed 10 different work streams. You just drop the I.
So at that point, are we just listing things instead of like putting it into formal sentences?
Yeah, you're listing like accomplishments in a very like direct way. And hopefully once I start sharing some resumes, you'll be able to visualize it and it'll make sense.
Got it, thank you.
And we're sharing all of this content after, so it's not going anywhere. Cool. We did have 2 slides in the appendix, not going to run through them, but again, just so you guys have on your own, there's a list of additional items to avoid. We mentioned not lying. It's also bad karma. They'll come back and haunt you. photos, confusing formatting, to name a few. And then a couple other like formatting guidelines, always keeping it to one page, making sure your margins are all good, being mindful of how you use the objectives section. Again, unless it's really geared to a specific job and all of your work experience is very specific to that. I'll be really honest, I don't always love an objective section. I find that especially at a college level, it can be so ambiguous. Like I've seen a lot of objectives that's like, I'm seeking an accounting internship. And I'm like, awesome, aren't we all? And I don't want to be like mean and crude, but that's really kind of what goes through everybody's head. Like just something like the Alpha conference that we were hosting last month. I think the recruiters forwarded like 100 resumes. Like I was not gonna sit and review, I have so much work. I was not gonna sit and review 100 resumes. Anything you could find that like gives you an excuse not to go into it, you will. And that's just like the harsh reality of it. And then dates, making sure the dates align, and just being really, really nitpicky about your formatting. And then some other like resume critique points to consider. I don't want to go too much into the dry material again. We'll be sending this slide afterwards. While I pull up an example of a bad resume, anybody has any other thoughts? Any other questions?
I think I have one. So I've seen some resumes that include like personal interest, hobbies. Are those necessary for the resume or
no? I actually worked on a recruiting activity with some students from Georgia Tech, and when they included that, it was they had one section with like extracurriculars, honors, like all of it lumped together. And maybe they did it like in one sentence, personal interest. And it said, I remember one girl had piano, tennis. I mean, some people have it. To me, I liked seeing it because it kind of told me okay, this person is interested in something besides doing well in school and besides doing other things. So if you do want to include it, just to give maybe the recruiters some insights as to who you are, do not devote more than one line to it. I don't know, Martha, if you agree with that.
Yeah, I think I'm with you 100%. I kind of love it from, I think it's a great conversation starter. I think like anything in life is sometimes it's all about having something in common with somebody. So it's a great way of like, hey, you're a runner, I'm a runner too. Like that's awesome. And next thing you know, you're talking about it. But just one little line, like 2 to 3 things, really that make you stand out, or you might be able to use this like a conversation starter, but I would keep it at that.
Thank you.
But right now I am sharing my screen of I would say it's not particularly like the worst resume I've seen in my life, but it also doesn't tickle my fancy. So I was thinking I could just give everybody like a couple minutes to just like sort through it and read it and just like start dropping like, hey, I think you could have done better. This could have been done better, or like, this is really good. I like this. So any thoughts that you guys can think of? And we could start with the objective if we want to start there, because we were talking about objectives a second ago. If you are a recruiter, if you read that objective, like what comes to mind? I think, who's going to say something?
Oh, I was going to say something, but just, I was going to say, this might sound maybe a little bit too crude, but not all entry-level positions are going to be challenging. So you putting that right off the bat is telling me, okay, this person wants to be challenged. So, not necessarily at EY, but at other companies, they might see it as, okay, so this person's not going to be happy with the kind of job that they're going to do at an entry level. Because, you know, we all have to be humble when we first start a job. We're not the most knowledgeable people. So we're doing, you know, a lot of times the grunt work, and that's fine. You got to pay your dues. So just something as far as that goes, just maybe not include such a wordy objective or such an objective that will put such high expectations on the position that you're applying to.
Yeah. I would say just most importantly, if you're putting that, that you are only applying to financial risk analyst roles. So like just knowing what you're getting yourself into, that you're being very specific to that. And like we mentioned earlier, that then everything in experience talks about why you would be the right candidate for an entry-level financial risk analyst role. Like if I look at that and then look at the third bullet point, and you're telling me that you tinted and mixed paint to customer specifications, I can't really see where that ties and why I should give you that job. And I can't really see why some of your experience really rolls up to that. So that's kind of what we're talking about when it's all like a little puzzle, like all of the pieces have to tie together and paint that picture that makes sense for that job. Any other thoughts you guys have on the objective or questions?
I can add something really quick if no one else has anything. Something that an advisor told me, I know that Martha is saying like no objective, and I would say the same thing. You want to avoid those super long objectives that describe you like, ooh, team-oriented, individual, blah, blah, blah. I actually had an objective like that. I just found my resume from 2014 and it was so embarrassing. But if you do want to add an objective, make it one line and say where you are in your college career and what you're looking for. For example, one of mine was like senior seeking internship for fall or for summer 2019, or in the one I'm looking at, senior looking full-time position starting January 2020, because that will tell a recruiter. Sometimes they have specific positions that they are recruiting for with specific timelines. So then that automatically will tell them when you graduate or what exactly is your timeline to see if it, aligns with theirs. So just keep it very short and sweet.
Yeah. And this is more of a, I guess, good point on that. It's like more of an EY FYI. If you are interested in potentially applying to any EY jobs, your graduation date and the day that you are seeking certain opportunity, it's actually huge. Everybody's going to ask you that, and it affects everything as far as like when you're interviewing. So just overall, like whether you don't have it in your resume, if you could just have that information in your back pocket is so important. That is both applicable for EY and anything else, Big Four, anything kind of like this. Your graduation date, the month, the summer you're seeking an internship, or the summer you're seeking a full-time offer is so important.
And a lot of the times, if you go to the recruiter, they'll tell you what they're looking for, or they'll communicate that. That takes some of the pressure off, because I know like a lot of you probably thinking, well, I don't want to say something, and then they're not looking for that. And then, I kind of mess up. Like, for example, some students that graduate in December. For EY, most full-time positions start in August. So maybe if they don't want to say, oh, I graduated in December and I'm looking for something in January, then just say, ask the recruiter, tell them when the timeline would be, and then you can say, okay, I'm a senior that graduates in December, but I'm open to start in August 2020. Assuming that you can have that period without work, then yeah, just make sure don't be afraid to ask what exactly it is that they're recruiting for, as far as EY goes, and I'm sure most Big Four are like that as well.
Anything, you guys, any feedback you have for this person on the experience section?
Maybe the font, and also they're not being as specific in where they work. They just like local paint store. What is the name?
Yep. So true. What is it about the font? Is it?
the same throughout. So it says sales associate in bold, and then in regular
Yes.
font the other, and then all bold
Yeah.
and regular.
Consistency is like I know so many people that are just, they're like hard to please. If your document or whatever it might be, like whether it's your work product at work or your resume, if everything is not to the T perfect, they don't even give you the time of day. So like it's knowing that you're being judged. You could be the perfect person and your formatting is off and somebody's not going to pay attention to you. You could say that they're going to say that, oh, you're just not detailed oriented. So that's really important.
I think another thing that throws me off is the dates and then the position name.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I would never put the dates first on the left. I've actually never even seen anybody put it on the left. I've always seen it on the right end where they have the city. I usually see, you could either do like the place, the job, and your role, or the role and your job, then the location, then the date, all the way to the far right. But again, going back to, if you are reading this, you want the most important information first. I don't really care about when you worked at the job. Where did you work? What was your role? What did you do? Is the things I really care about. Anything else as far as content?
There's also no like achievements. There's not really anything that they did special about their position.
That's huge. Like just reading through this, I'm like, you're telling me a lot about what you did, but I don't really know why I should care about what you did. Like why you made flyers to inform youth about website. Like, great. Like, what was the value of those flyers? Like, did you make flyers and then you increased like participation by 20%? Now we're talking about like the solution, the results or the outcomes of what you did. And you're adding that quantitative aspect that we talked about. So that is just huge. And I actually purposely put the bullet point below because I thought that was a little bit of a stronger bullet. Organized back to school bash event reached approximately 100 plus members of the community. Like what did you do, and what was the outcome and the result of what you did, and why things were better because of what you did, is huge. So thanks, Angie, for saying that. That was awesome.
What if you guys take a look at the bullet points? Like, what do you notice? Do they all start with action verbs, or?
Yeah, they're they're basic verbs. I mean, they're not really, they don't stand out. They're typical, so
they're kind of all over the place a little bit.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Like the verb format is wrong or inconsistent, or
yeah, like the very last one under branch manager, inspect, I would have put that as inspected. So you want everything to be past tense if you had that job in the past. I'm really hating the one that says as an entrepreneur maintained.
I was gonna jump on that one.
Unless you are truly an entrepreneur and have your own company, I wouldn't even call myself an entrepreneur. So just, I mean, you could have easily started that phrase with maintain financial management and it would have been significantly better. I would have just dropped as an entrepreneur. And that goes back to like the I question and like defining yourself in the resume. I don't need to know much about who you are in the sense of like, I don't need to know that this person's an entrepreneur. I just need to know what you did. You maintain financial management and budget for clients. And I would make that 1,000 times better and say like, which resulted in this thing improving, and you have an awesome bullet in your resume. So just things like that. I'm trying to see, I have a little cheat sheet of some comments. We covered that not everything's an action verb. Not all of the consistencies are the same.
There was one as far as considering your audience. For example, in the first experience, the last bullet when he says tinted and mixed paint to customer specifications. So that's where not everyone that reads your resume will know what those customer specifications are. So maybe tailor that to if you are applying for a, you know, job related to a paint store, then maybe you can say that you worked with such and such machine and you were able at, you know, preparing custom blends of this types of paints, right? But definitely don't be too general, because a lot of the times, like, recruiters are not the ones doing audit or risk consulting, for example. So if you just include a little bit of like an explanation as to what exactly you did, then that will help out a lot.
Agreed. In the education section, I mean, I think it's fine. I would just say overall, the formatting, again, like, it just seems very like, I don't even think that this is a standard resume template in any way. It just kind of, I would have bulleted bachelor, like, I don't know. I just, format just could have been so much better if he could have just, if this individual could have taken a template and at least put it in a template. Yeah. Any other thoughts on like education or anything in the professional competency section?
I think the acronym for NYU. I know like a lot of people like know what NYU is, but like we need to be more specific.
Yeah, you have a lot of people that move from different places. Like, I'm from Peru, so a lot of the times where people would tell me ASU or FIU, I wouldn't even know what that is. Yeah, so definitely, even if it's a big school that you think everyone would know, then it doesn't hurt to just explain it.
Arissa, were you going to say something?
I believe Python is misspelled.
Yeah,
that might have been my doing, because I wanted to highlight. I wanted us to talk a little bit about like what to include in your like proficiencies. So the difference between something really technical, like if you're a coder and you know a certain coding language, awesome. Like, definitely add that. Even if you just know a little bit, literally, if you know just a little bit of coding, I would say be pretty confident to add that there, because that's a pretty standout thing. I'm always very hesitant about anything Word, like the Word suite, because it's just an expectation. If you don't know how to use Word and Excel, like, that's an expectation. That's not an accomplishment, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So you could I would just say like Word suite. I wouldn't even like break it out into like PowerPoint, Excel. Like, I would just keep it really high level and there, and maybe just keep it in college. I don't have it in my professional resume. Again, I'm not special if I know how to use Word. But I mean, I think very relevant to Alpha. If you're bilingual, that stands out. Not everybody is. That's a huge skill that we have. If you're from an immigrant community, if you're first generation student, whatever it might be, it makes you special. So I definitely wanted to highlight that, to add that for sure.
What do you think of adding, like, instead of listing Word, Excel, PowerPoint, what about just Microsoft Office proficient or something like that?
Yeah,
okay.
I think just keeping it as like that one word again in college totally makes sense. Again, somebody like me, not so much.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that the Career Center kind of fixed my resume, but they ended up adding like Word, Excel, PowerPoint. And maybe it's just that they don't exactly know. I don't even know, but.
I mean, and that's where you're definitely going to get a lot of different opinions from a lot of different people. And we're most definitely not resume experts from the fact that like it's not our daytime job. I can only speak to kind of what we've known and heard from the recruiters that we work with. And I think that's part of the biggest frustration with resume building. Just get really comfortable that a lot of people are going to tell you a lot of different feedback. And just knowing that that's okay. And maybe you have a version with it and one without, and see what kind of like reaction you're getting from different recruiters, or like that you're sharing it with us and then you're sharing it with somebody else and different people are giving you different feedback. I think it's okay. At the end of the day, I remember me being the one that made the call of like, I was proud of that. So I was going to keep X bullet or X thing in my resume.
Yeah. And as far as the Excel thing goes, when we say that we expect people to know Excel, that's just basic Excel. Obviously, anything that's very, very technical, I know with Excel, there's a myriad of things that you can do. So if you have, for example, a certification in Excel that proves your level is proficient, or it's above what is normally expected, then yeah, that would be something that would be relevant to list that I've seen in resumes, like such and such Excel certification, because that proves that your skills are not just that like, oh yeah, I can totally write and, you know, do like the sum, average, function, but just something a little bit more sophisticated.
So in my case, I do have a certification in Office. So I would actually put it like in the skills, or I would put it on like certification, education, and all that.
Where's your certification from? Like, is it an online certification?
I took the test in like college, and like they just gave me the test and I got a certification where it says that I got advanced in Office, Word, and Excel, and PowerPoint.
I would say, and you can agree or disagree with me, Martha, but if it's a certification that has been awarded by an institution, or maybe like, for example, the CISA certification, which is awarded by ISACA, they put that in certifications. But for something like that, Excel, I would just put that with professional competencies. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somewhere in like that like little one-liner of professional competency that it was it was actually Microsoft that like it's a Microsoft approved certification, that it wasn't just anything random. Again, like Eva was mentioning, like online, just anything certification related, you always want to make sure it's just so your time is worth it, that it's coming from a credible source. So as long as it's like a Microsoft approved certification, then yeah. Cool. I know that we're actually a little bit over. Do we want to take like 5 more minutes to cover like a good resume, or do we, I don't know if anybody has a hard stop. I'll let you guys make a call.
I scheduled the meeting time until 6, so if everyone doesn't mind, if we
So we still have 12 minutes. Yeah. Awesome.
Then I will show an example of a little bit of a better resume. I will caveat this one. This is not a college resume at all, actually. This is a resume from a friend of mine that has been working for 4 years now as well. And this is what she's using to apply for her MBA program. So I would consider this a bomb resume. So I do not expect anybody to feel like they need to be here yet, but this is kind of more somewhere where you can get.
I'm about to lose my confidence.
No, I mean,
no, I'm just kidding.
No,
I'm just kidding.
Let me show you my old resume. You'll gain it right back.
Yeah. There we go. I wasn't sharing my screen for a second. I had highlighted a couple things that I wanted to kind of like draw the eye to, but I'm going to zoom out a little bit because one of my favorite things about this is just like the formatting is just like beautiful. Like everything, just the moment you open this document up, it's just a really clean format. And that's just, even if you don't have any content, if you could just start there and have a really clean format and all of the margins are perfect and all of your bullet points align and everything that's bolded is consistent and everything that's in italics is consistent, you're like, that's already huge. So that's just kind of like the first thing that I wanted to highlight on formatting. Do you guys have any other thoughts on formatting, or kind of like initial view of what it looks like? Again, I think starting with work experience just from off the bat is huge. So just making sure that you're highlighting that work experience from the very beginning. And I think the biggest things, again, don't get too overwhelmed by the fact that she's done a lot. But everything starts with an action verb. So conducted, facilitated, led, served, develop, created, designed, like they're all really powerful action words that tell me what you did. And again, I don't need to read the rest of that sentence to know that you were taking a really active and key role in doing whatever it was in this particular job that you had. Some of the other things, like again, being having kind of those quantitative, so you co-facilitate interviews with 50, like you're saying how many people were part of that, and now I'm able to see like, hey, you probably took a lot of work to do so many interviews, like that was a big effort. I love seeing something that says I did this and it resulted in this, so I love that about this bullet. Anything else that kind of comes to mind when you guys look at this resume's work experience versus the other one?
It's just so easy to read compared to the other one. The other one was horrible, no offense, but yeah.
It is like, it just like, I don't even feel like I need to think through it and kind of figure out like what she did. Like I already know what she did. And again, this is why it's so important to put it in front of somebody else, because when you're looking at your resume, you're looking at it a million times. You might be looking at it like day and night for like a couple of weeks, and almost you can't even, you just don't have that third party view. And when you put it in front of somebody that you don't know, they're able to just give you a completely different perspective that you're not seeing. So if you take anything from this, it's just to feel really comfortable with putting your resume in front of other people. I know it's overwhelming. You have to be really vulnerable. And I remember being so shy about it, but it's okay. It's helpful, I promise. Again, leadership and community experience is huge. I mean, I think that's what you guys, I don't expect you guys to be bringing in any like revenue costs at your college level or like working with millions of people, but maybe some more stuff in kind of like, if you're leading a team of volunteers at a community service event, put that on there. If you helped a community service group developing something that made them a little bit better, so like you worked with a volunteering manager to create certain thing that made them, again, a little bit better of an organization. Like those are things you guys can actually get exposure to. So things that you see in the leadership section are things that I would say you could definitely strive to.
And let me add a little bit as to the importance of that leadership and community experience. Just speaking from a personal experience, that when I applied for my internship at EY, I actually had 0 internship experience or 0 prior internships that were relevant to any advisory, any risk advisory position. Like all I had on my resume as far as job experience goes, it was a prior job working, doing clerical work. Then I think I mentioned being a teacher's assistant or a tutor for accounting. But what helped me stand out was the fact that I was involved in so much. I was the president of Alpha. I had participated in some case competitions. I took on a minor that was, applied statistics and data analysis, which was a little bit, current as far as what kind of like the buzzword nowadays, data analytics. And then, all of those little things. I had volunteering experience. So just all of that kind of helped me boost a little bit the fact that I didn't have any past or relevant experience. And, I definitely felt a little bit intimidated when I was going through the recruitment process, because there were all the kids that I was up against. They had had prior internships with EY, with Deloitte, with PwC, and here I was with zero experience. This was going to be my first internship, but just how important it is to show that besides school and besides maybe a part-time job, what else are you able to do? Because that tells us, okay, this is a person that has great time management skills. This is a person that is proactive and wants to, do more besides going to school, and besides, being, doing like the bare, well, not the bare minimum, but just doing the everyday tasks. Like Martha said, like all of that proves to us that you're able to handle different things, that you're able to talk to people, that you're a social person, that, you like to keep busy. So that section is very important. And if you feel like you're lacking in that section, you're still in college, you can totally bulk that section up. You can join different organizations, and you can look into what extracurricular activities you can do. And it's not necessarily that you have to devote a lot of time. Maybe you can volunteer. You can find an organization where you only have to volunteer once a week or once a month, because those are out there. So don't feel like you're gonna have to all of a sudden schedule out all of your time and not have anything left for your family or your friends or your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever is important to you. It doesn't take a lot. And just that little thing, and you can put that on your resume, and it'll help you a huge deal.
I agree with everything you said. I said it better myself. Yeah, I think something like down below, again, like if you're making Dean's List, if you're having any key accomplishments, adding that here. Campus involvement, I would say as a professional, like I said, I wouldn't put anything college related, so I would maybe just call out the organizations I was a part of. But I think for you guys, I remember having, and I would have to pull up my resume right now, but if you're a member, again, like just because you're not in a leadership role doesn't mean that you can't help out or do like a thing or two as a member. So I remember having bullet points under like leadership and community experience that were like, as a member of the Women in Finance group, maybe I wasn't the president, but this is what I did as a member. So you can always highlight that above as well. Any other questions? I think we covered like interest, like she has interest on here, which I think is great. Again, just one little quick line, nothing more than that. But if there's somebody that does cycling, they easily can just kind of talk about that. And I think that's awesome. And I like it as a conversation starter. I'm pro the interest section if you keep it small. Any other thoughts? Oh no, I was gonna just say, like, anybody else has any other thoughts, anything else here?
If nobody has anything, just this one little analogy that I like to do when resume building is that you got to look at it as if you're selling a house, right? When you're selling a house, you definitely want to do all the cool pictures and find the right angles, and you want to craft like, oh, character, full home, if you want to say old, you say character, it has character. But that can only get you so far, and sometimes to get what you want out of your sale, you have to do some renovations. So what that means in the terms of a resume is that, yeah, you can format it and make it look pretty and include all the action verbs, but what will help you the most is to actually build your resume. And what does that look like? For example, you can, like Martha said, coding right now, it is huge. So if you can even take some classes online, or maybe find a class in your own school that offers some coding. I know that for me, there was like the one class that I always recommended to everyone, where in that one class, you got exposure to 3 coding languages. So I told everyone, take that class, and then once you have that, you can put 3 coding languages in your resume. So that, for example. Then as far as case competitions, even if you didn't win or didn't place, if it's a competition where there was an application process and you were selected to participate, that makes you a finalist. So you can say that, bam, this case competition, finalist. And that gives something for recruiters to look at and say, oh, okay, this person likes, to be involved in competition. And they can ask you like, hey, tell me what this was like. And then you can expand on your experience. Then also, if you're an accounting major, I'm pretty sure most of you are, and you want to do, I don't know if a lot of you are going to go to a master's program, but if you are trying to find extra classes to take to get to the 150 credit hours, I know that was what I did. I took all of them in undergrad. So then, yeah, find some classes that are relevant. Find some more, data analytics classes. Does your school offer any business intelligence? And just anything that you can do to actually build up your resume and have stuff to write on your technical skills. I know when my first resume, I'm looking at it, like I did list like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Office, because that's all I had. But then as time went on and I started taking more classes, then I could add, coding languages, I could add little things. So I think that is also like one of the most important things. If you are serious about where you want to work and you know that company receives a lot of volume as far as applicants go, then yeah, you want something that is going to make you stand out for sure, because otherwise you just, sadly, you're just not going to get there. I don't know if anybody else has anything else to say.
Do you guys feel a little bit better about resumes? Like you can tackle this?
Absolutely, yes.
I'm glad. And it's okay to I remember asking all my friends and working on it together and looking at what they have and how they thought about wording something. I think that's okay. I think even as you go into the workforce, this idea of leveraging other people's work is just a lot more acceptable. It is okay to not start from scratch. That is literally what most people tell me at work. They don't ever want me to start from scratch. Don't ever feel like you need to be starting from scratch on your resume. Please look at examples online. You have us as resources. Kylie should have our emails, but we could definitely make sure we send that information out. I will make sure I send all of the material that we have today. More than welcome to share my college resume. Don't judge it, because I'm also here getting heart palpitations with it too. But hopefully you guys feel like you can that it's not as overwhelming as where we started.
Yeah, and you also have time. I mean, you're still in college. You have time to apply all of the things that Martha and I have suggested. You have time to, become more involved with an organization or to help out in the organization where you currently are, be it Alpha or whichever one. You have time to do all of that. And then you can add that to your resume and feel confident that you're actually adding, stuff of value. Because I think a lot of the little issues with writing a resume, at least what I felt, is that, well, I haven't done anything. What am I going to write? What am I going to, put in there? So then, that should push you to kind of get out there and try a little bit more. I remember when I participated in my first case competition, I didn't even want to do it, but I figured, you know what, why not? This is my first semester. I had transfer, so I was, I think, a sophomore. But yeah, so I was like, okay, you know what, I'm going to just try it. And, it ended up that our team made the third place. I have no idea how, but we got third place. So then, bam, that was something I could add on my resume. So just take a chance, go out there, try new things. You still have time to do all of that. And then your resume will speak for itself. And you won't need to feel so much pressure into making it look perfect.
Awesome. I don't know if you guys have any closing remarks or anything else, but I think we're done with our show.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Yeah, and anytime really. I think where we started, I'm so passionate about Alpha, and I don't want to get too political, but very passionate about uplifting just our community, our Hispanic community. I think it's just paying it forward, I had other professionals that came out and did this for me, and I am really where I'm at today because of them. So know that there's a lot of people, not just at EY, but just overall everywhere in like the Alpha community, really wanting to kind of help out students like you guys. So literally, like, open book, doors wide open. Please reach out with questions. Believe me, I'd rather be doing this than my actual work sometimes.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. I remember when I was first applying to the internship, I had a personal connection who worked at Deloitte, and he said, "Oh, you should talk to this girl who works at EY," and it was Martha. And she was so kind to like just hop on a conversation, a phone call with me. I think we talked for like 2 hours that one day. So yeah, we all believe, and that's something that I've noticed with all of the Alpha members. We believe in paying it forward, and just trying to get you guys to the job that you want to be, because someone else did it for us. So, I mean, Kaylee, you have our email. So if somebody asks you, feel free to ask Kaylee for it, and you want to reach out, maybe you have a question or you just want to connect on LinkedIn, then feel free to do so for sure.
Thank you so much. I feel so much better.
Nice, I'm so glad. Okay, so you guys have a good night, and just welcome us back whenever. We're happy to help with anything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, now that it's the board, we're
Don't
gonna
even take this long.
have a little break, and then we'll get back to the board meeting at 6:30.
Okay, sounds good.
On Teams.
Yes, on Teams.
Okay.
Okay, I'll see you guys then. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.